Hey, how's it going? Welcome back. I'm going to do a contest entry today for Clifford, the vinyl cheapskate. He recently reached 100 subscribers, so congrats to you, my friend. And he's doing a contest to celebrate such a feat. He's a good dude. We have the same taste in music. You know, he's into punk, hardcore, metal, the occasional thrift store jam. I can dig it. Uh, and you should too. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. And if you haven't already and are so inclined, then subscribe to him. Um, yeah, so the contest is Show Me Your Inner Cheapskate. And I intend to do that. There's 5 bits of criteria. I have a few records for each. So the first, Show Me a Dollar record. Now, a few years back, a guy I know bought a sea can full of records. He doesn't collect records, he just bought a sea can full of them. He's one of those dudes that buys antiques and flips them and goes to auctions all the time and shit like that. So, at any rate, he put all these records in his garage and he had a garage sale every Saturday and Sunday until they were gone. And most of the records were a dollar, especially ones that he was unfamiliar with, which is pretty much, every record that I would buy from him. So, needless to say, I ended up buying a lot of records from that. So, I have a few examples of that, all $1. Beginning with Crass, Penis Envy. It's a 1981 pressing on Crass Records. Um, the band probably needs no introduction. They're probably the best known of the UK anarcho punk bands from the 80s. Uh, Back in the day, I didn't care much for them musically. I knew who they were and I knew what they were all about, and I liked that. I just didn't like their music a whole lot. Um, I've kind of come around on that over the years. I like them a lot more now than I used to. They're still not something that I reach for often, but definitely like them a lot more now than I did then. But yeah, I'm not passing a Crass record by for a dollar like ever. So yeah. Next up, everyone's favorite director, John Carpenter, in association with Alan Howarth. It's the Escape from New York soundtrack. Fantastic film. You got Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. You got Isaac Hayes as the Duke of New York. Donald Pleasance, Ernest Borgnine, Harry Dean Stanton, Adrian Barbeau, Ox Baker. Yeah, just a great movie. Um, I remember my parents taking me to see this at the drive-in when it came out. So I guess that's kind of one of the cool benefits to being a senior citizen, as it were. But but yeah, Escape from New York. Not passing that up for a buck. And then we have some Los Angeles metal here. I think I may have showed this before, but Nitro O.F.R. Out fucking rageous. I remember seeing the video that these guys put out when I was a kid, and we just laughed at it because Michelangelo with his goofy fucking 4-neck guitar, and then Jim Gillette because look at that mane. But yeah, they definitely have the cock rocky hair metal, glam metal, whatever you want to call it, look going down. They were a little faster than those bands, but still corny as hell, but still worth a dollar. Okay, show me some cheap heat. So you want a record that's always cheap when you see it, but it is still awesome. I'll start out with a no-brainer. Nine Shocks Terror, Zen and the Art of Beating Your Ass. Band from Cleveland. I've talked about them on here before. Kind of like, the best elements of classic Japanese hardcore mixed with, like a southern rock kind of thing. Maybe if like Gauze had a baby with, Black Oak, Arkansas at a hospital in the Midwestern U.S., that's what Nine Shocks Terror sounds like. This is a Havoc Records pressing. You always find this under $10, always. The beauty of it is that Havoc Records pressed a lot of all of their releases, well, most of the releases at least. So you'll never have a hard time finding them for cheap. But yeah, definitely one of the best American hardcore bands of the '90s and early 2000s. Great live band too. So yeah, Nine Shocks Terror. And we'll go to a Swedish band that never really gets any love. Kvoteringen. I think I said that right. The record's called Bister Prognose. I love how my bad Swedish sounds like bad Russian. This is on Terrotten Records, which is a Brazilian label, which is also run by one of the guys from Sick Terror, I believe, who were a pretty good Brazilian band. Kvoteringen, they sound like Disrupt with a Motorhead influence. Like, the Motorhead influence isn't so prevalent that they come off sounding like, an Epsi or something like that, but like they still totally sound like, along the lines of Disrupt, but there's some Motorhead creeping in there. Really, really good band. I've got a bunch of their stuff. It's all really good. But this record, when it turns up, always under $10. Definitely worth it if you're into, some raw, borderline grindcore, kind of crusty, stuff. We got one here, 2004, Parts Unknown Records. It's a band called the Gatecrashers. Are a bunch of motherfuckers. Band from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Super, super good. Also a band that never really gets talked about. They sound a lot, something like maybe Tear It Up, like some, early 2000s East Coast hardcore. But there's also like an Infest influence in there. Like they get super, super fast at times. This is really well done, just short to the point, like kicky in the teeth, hardcore punk. So yeah, the Gatecrashers. Okay, great all-around score. I've showed this before. It's a band called the Onits from Cambridge, Ontario, just a little over an hour down the highway from me. It's Weekend Wrestler, backed with Gamma Rays. It's on Vinyl Dream Records. It's from 1981. I told the story of this before. I'll recap it. I'm in this group on Facebook. It's a local record collectors group. You buy and trade records and whatever. And somebody posted that they were looking for Forgotten Rebels records. And then some guy in the comments asked if this person had ever heard the Onits and posted a link to the one of the songs. I had heard of them. I'd been looking for the record for a while. I'd never ever seen a copy. And I said that. And the guy said he could probably help me out with that. So I met up with him. I bought a copy for $35. It turns out he was the drummer in the band. Told me some stuff like the Onits. The name came from, at the time, Happy Days was popular, and Fonzie would always be like, sit on it. That's where they got it, Onits. Anyways, so yeah, bought a copy for $35. Pleased as punch. The drummer guy, Spaceman Stan, still a friend of mine. Awesome dude. A week later, I'm in an antique mall looking through some 45s. I find what appeared to be an unplayed copy of this for 50 cents. So that's a great all-around score because this thing goes for over $100 every time it sells. So the Onits. Next, another one I've also showed, but a similar circumstance. Slaughter, Nocturnal Hell. It's on Fringe Product and Diabolic Force, 1986. Canadian thrash classic, kind of a proto-death metal at times. Pretty desirable record. I found it at a guy that I know kind of turned his garage into a makeshift record store. Rockbox Records in Mount Bridges, Ontario. Tiny, tiny little town. I went there. He doesn't really sell a whole lot of 45s, so he had this for $5, and I snagged it. Thing, it goes for a pretty penny when it turns up. I'll buy this for $5 all day long. And then, like a month later, I'm at another record store. I find a copy for $20, which is still a steal. So, yeah. 2 copies of both of those records, which are pretty desirable and pretty rare. 2 copies, in a month apart from each other. And then we got Nuclear Assault, Game Over, picture disc. Now the story behind this is probably the greatest all-around score of all because it was free. I had a guy that I knew in high school just messaged me randomly on Facebook and said he had a record that he wanted to give me. It was the last record of the ones that he had back in the 80s. He didn't know that he had it. It was wrapped in a t-shirt in the bottom of a dresser. And he found it, knew that I still collected records, and decided to give it to me. And it was this. And surprisingly, it's still in great shape. So, yeah, Combat Records, Nuclear Assault, Game Over, picture disc. It's one of those old picture discs that doesn't really sound that good, but still pretty cool for free. Okay, Budget Bin Steel. All right, I got this one just a little while ago. Life Sentence, No Experience Necessary. It's from like 1989, Walk Through Fire Records. Awesome band from Chicago. Yeah, just fast, coherent, hardcore. Very well written, very well played. Super good band. Both their records are awesome. Members more recently turned up in a band called Regress, which are, similar, but yeah, this is good. It was like $5. There's another one I got recently. It's the shit split between two California bands, Blatz and Filth. Now this is like a 2000s pressing or something. It's still pretty cool to find, and it was like $5. So, Blatz, kind of goofy, kind of streetwise, Gilman Street era kind of punk rock. Filth, a little grittier, actually really, really good band. I like them more than Blatz. Blatz are still pretty cool. But yeah, for $5, I'll take that. And this gem that I got for $8. It's the Cramps, Smell of Female. It's a 4 7-inch box set on New Rose from like 1984. It's their special limited Spring Tour 84 edition. It was $8. It's missing a couple songs that are on the LP version, but it has one song on here that wasn't on the LP version. So, yeah, considering how much Cramps records demand these days, to get that for $8, no problems. And lastly, we got great thrift store find. Now, I'm doing this from the point of not something that I consider great because I don't really listen to these, but from a financial turnover standpoint, it's a good steal because these were all like, $1 at best. But you got the Sand Pebbles of Barbados, Suntan. It's from 1978. Calypso disco type stuff. I kind of read up on them, and I believe this record may have only been given away on flights to Barbados. You look it up on Discogs, and one sold for like $300. Like I don't know why. I only bought it based on this because that's hilarious. It's like a vagina billboard or something. But yeah, this record apparently is really desirable in the world of calypso music or whatever. It's signed by all the members, and it actually has a big ass bumper sticker with it, which apparently is super rare as well. So I guess in the scheme of desirable copies of the Sand Pebbles of Barbados Suntan, this is probably as good as it gets. I don't know. We got one here that's either from 1969 or 1970. It's a private press, Ontario folk record. Marg Atkinson, Atoms and Drops. This thing goes for pretty good money sometimes too. It's from Caledonia, Ontario, which is about an hour away from me. It's a little bit, southwest of Hamilton, Ontario, maybe just a small town. But yeah, apparently this is a little bit of a big deal in Ontario private press folk circles or whatever. But yeah, Marg Atkinson. And then lastly, a band from London, Ontario. It's from 72, I think. Pat's People, Today. Now, I bought this based on the fact that I like girl groups, so I figured you have an early 70s, girl group. So how bad could it be? I get it home and yeah, it could be pretty bad. Like it's a Christian record. It comes from the St. Patrick's Church in London, Ontario. And it's, the back of it, the liner notes on it talk about UFOs and weird shit like that. And the band or the girls themselves sound completely unenthusiastic. It's like, it sounds like they've either been drugged or they've just subsisted on like a straight week of the Shags, and they were letting that filter into their musical ability. I don't know, super weird. But this record is pretty desirable, in the religious records world. And yeah, it goes for pretty good money sometimes. So yeah, I found a few copies of it. I've sold some for, a couple $100 each. So yeah, that's the last copy I have, and I'll sell it for a couple $100 when I get a chance. So yeah. Anyways, congrats, Cliff. There's my entry. See ya.